Hey, Shalom, Shalom, and stuff. So, begin no praise to Yahweh, Shem Yahushua, Shem Kakodash, double honors to the apostles of GMS, and honors you brothers doing the work in truth or sincerity. It's a quick one, basically inspired of the fact you're hearing certain phrases repeat over and over and over again. So, what do you call it? These leaders, political leaders, whatever, they're doing their daily stand-ups. And one of the things that's always said, for instance, here, the UK government, stay at home, save lives, right? And you hear that all the time. Like they might have a 40-minute session and they'll say it like 4 or 5 times, if not more, right? So basically it was like, indoctrination by repetition. I forgot what I typed in into the Google, but came across this article here from the UIA, which I believe is a UN organization, the Union of International Associations, right? So it goes on. It basically says, right, indoctrination by repetition says other names, misuse of memory, indoctrination by slogans, persuasion by misleading propaganda. Right, it says nature that it is a truism that if anything is repeated frequently enough, it will be believed. So, for instance, you have this idea that the so-called Jews are not the so-called Jews, but the Jews are so-called white. But you read the scriptures, and that goes completely against the truth, right? But it's been repeated so much that it is now believed, right? And of that, you have the fact that Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorant calls Jesus Christ, he's actually a so-called black man, right? However, you read you ask the common man, right? And they don't even know this, right? This is Revelation 1. I'm going to start from verse 13. It says, and in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, right? So these are the 7 churches in Asia Minor. It says, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with the garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps of the golden girdle, right? So garment down to the foot, that's like the garments you see, brothers wear from the apostles on down, right? It says, and girt about the paps of the golden girdle. So that is a thing that men of war would wear, right? Scriptures say in Exodus that the Most High is a man of war, right? And Yahushua takes after his father, there of one accord, right? So Yahushua is also a man of war, right? It says his head and his hairs were white like wool, so he had white woolly hair, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, because he drank a lot of wine. You read the prophecy in Genesis, the 49th chapter, right? It says, and his feet like unto fine brass, right? As if they burned in a furnace. And what color is that metal, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's actually bronze when you look up that word there, right? But it says as if they burned in a furnace, so it's dark. So it's a dark bronze, right? So Yahushua was dark. If his feet were that color, then what was the rest of his body? It says, and his voice as the sound of many waters. So he had a loud, commanding voice, right? And but people don't know this, despite the fact it's written in the scriptures. People will still come up to the camp, and this is another part of indoctrination, because as soon as we prove to these people what how Yahushua looked, what do they come back with? Well, why does it matter, right? Or something, there are set phrases that are repeated, right? And even just as I'm going through this now, right? For instance, what do you call it? A so-called, not so-called, but a Muslim will come out to the camp, right? And then what's one thing they're gonna say? Well, the Bible's been changed, right? A Christian will come out to the camp. Well, God loves everybody, right? Or which course atheists will come up. Well, it's a fairy tale anyway, right? All of these different repetitions that these people now believe, right? Because these people don't understand, right? They really ain't got any opinions of their own, right? Their opinions have been programmed in them by the elites, right? Because they've seen things repeated on TV so many times. Like, for instance, remember, a guy will be asked, so what's your opinion on homosexuals? Right? And the guy will be like, well, as long as they're not affecting me, right? That used to be the mantra to now basically it's now integral in society. It's a part of society, right? You can't go anywhere without coming across that sort of thing, right? If you hear a country has outlawed it, you're like, whoa, shit, you outlawed it. And and Esau try to come, drop some bombs of freedom on you yet, right? So it says, it is a truism that if anything is repeated frequently enough, it will be believed. Right? This technique is used by those wishing to sway public opinion, right? Even outright lies. And they gonna do that to us, man. Right? They gonna do that to us. This is Matthew 24. Is it from 7? Where are we from? From 9, Salat. Right? Matthew 24 from 9 says, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Right? No one I wanted actually. Let me get before Kings. Yes, the one. It says Matthew 10 and in fact, let me start from 16 actually, right? So Matthew 10, I'm going to start from verse 16. It says, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So we're commanded to be sheep, right? In the midst of wolves, all of these, you've got guys in wolves in sheep's clothing pretending to be among us. You got wolves that are looking to tear us down, take us out, right? But they sheep, sheep are meat, man. Just do what they're doing, right? It says, be therefore wise as serpents. And here's the point, harmless as doves. So we've been commanded by our Lord Yahushua to be harmless as doves, right? You consider when Peter, was it Peter? I forget, it escapes me who, right? But cut off Malchus's ear when Yahushua was ready to be taken. I believe it was. I forget, Salaki, I forget. Right, but was cut off Marx's ear. What did Yahushua say? Yahushua said, look, man, hey, who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. Right? So Yahushua was basically saying, look, man, now ain't the time for violence, basically, and we're of that understanding, right? But despite that, what does it say here, right? Even outright lies. This technique is used by those wishing to sway public opinion, even outright lies, right? Which is what they're going to do to us because we're non-violent, if you will, right? We'll protect ourselves. If someone tries to attack us, yeah, we're going to protect ourselves, but we ain't going out there, instigating fights and stuff, right? That ain't us. We ain't out there going out to be carnal, right? It says Zephaniah 3 and 8, right? It says, therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey for my determination. I believe that's Shapatiyah, my Shapatiyah, so judgment. So Yahweh's judgment is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Right? So we've been commanded, right? And what does the scripture say? Rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. And what do you do to a witch? The scripture says a witch shall be burned, a witch shall be put to death. Say burnt? I forget. Hey, Salah, you can see my memory ain't the best, so I can, forgive me. But yeah, it says basically a witch shall be put to death, man. Right? Thou shalt suffer not a witch to live. That's the one, right? So rebellion. So we've been told to be non-violent, to wait upon our Lord, right? Because there's gonna come a time when we get given an okay to do certain things, but up until then, we ain't gonna be violent. But they're gonna paint us out to be. Why? Because it's all part of this, propaganda. You say persuasion, but misleading propaganda, right? Even outright lies, which are immediately disproved if repeated often enough, become part of the individual's consciousness and are believed without him or her being aware of it, right? So they gonna what you call it? They gonna do this with us, man. right? They gonna do this with us, right? You just gotta be, be waiting for it, right? This is verse 17 of Matthew 10. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues, and you shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles, right? So why are they gonna bring us to them? Or, to hey, let's become friends. No, they're gonna be, trying to lay accusations upon brothers, right? But what does the scripture say? It says, but when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour ye shall speak. For it is not you that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you, right? So we don't even need to worry about all of those things there, right? We're going to be guided in that day. For those of us who have to go through this, because that's another thing. Not every brother's going to be going through the same thing, right? A few of us are going to have to get put to death, but as the apostle said, that's just a few of us, right? Because now is the time of salvation, right? And you can find the article, the Encyclopedia of World Problems and Human Potential, Indoctrination by Repetition, encyclopedia.uia.org, right? Read into it yourself, right? In fact, let me just read this. This looks interesting. Right? It says, incidents. This technique is consistently used by those wishing to destabilize society. For example, in the miners' strike in the UK in 1984, deliberate lies were told in interviews on radio and television, immediately disproved by the interviewer, but by their very repetition came to be believed. Right? Repetition is also used as a marshalling call by orators wishing to convince by propaganda what cannot be demonstrated by logical argument. The defamation of the Jews in Hitler's Germany is a potent example, right? Which that in itself, that whole thing there is something that is what's the word I'm looking for? Is an example of this indoctrination by repetition, right? Because when you actually read the real history, right, what they've done is one of the, is a major lie upon the people, right? It's a major lie because what is said to have happened, right, in that time period, when you have to phrase things so that the automatic senses don't catch it, right? But what happened during that time period, what is said to have happened, never actually happened. Right? Yeah, did people die? Yeah, of course. It was a labor camp, right? And it was rife with disease because it was built upon marshland, right? But to the extent that these Amalekites will tell you, hell no, right? And what you call the information is being scrubbed off the internet, man, right? It says the technique is also used by advertisers wishing to encourage the public to buy their goods. Such simple, scriptures talk about is it a simple belief of every word, man, right? Because you had, what was it, smoking is good for you. That was a campaign that was run, right? You had doctors basically smoking, and hey, people, smoking was good for you, man, right? And then what does Esau do? Comes back decades later after he's made the money. Oops, right? It says drink pinta milk a day when printed on hoardings, recited on televisions, and accepted by the public become so much part of the psyche that they are treated as absolute truth, whether or not there's any foundation at all for such belief. Right? Interestingly enough, just at a time when political and commercial forces seem to be conspiring to program individuals through the rote learning process, this technique is being abandoned by educationalists and religious leaders. Children are no longer encouraged to learn good literature and mathematical formula by heart, are no longer taught catechism. What the fuck does that mean? Catechism of the Roman Catholic Church. I think it's a Catholic thing. What makes catechism? I don't know. Yes, as religious worship has become very free, with very limited use of familiar repetition, which is why they don't know anything, right? Because that's the flip side of this, though, right? Because whereas Lord is all about balance, whereas you can do this on the left hand side, you can do this on the right hand side as well, right? For instance, if you learn a language, right? Yeah, you better fucking be repeating shit, otherwise you ain't ever gonna learn, right? And most importantly, right, if what do you call it? If you're saying you're a teacher, right, you got to study, right? Because that's how you what do you call it? That's how you learn, right? And that's why the scriptures are so repetitive. Right? This is 2 Timothy 2:15, study to show thyself approved, right, unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, right? Yeah, so and part of that is, that going over things and over things, right, that makes things stick in your mind, right? So, for instance, what I was saying, the scriptures are very repetitious, right? You read about, the judgment, the dark times that are to come, right? The Spirit, made me see it for like the first time. I believe a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a video, and I was like, right, each time, the Lord is saying, hey, the times will come, they're gonna be difficult. But how will it end? He's just like, look, but Jacob shall be saved. And it gets to that point of like, oh shit, it's gonna be hard. Oh, but at the end, that's gonna happen. And the whole point of that, right, is so that in that day, right, you remember, because scriptures say this is Isaiah 33:6 says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thine times. Right, so these scriptures are supposed to keep you stable in that day. So let's say you are going through a hard time, and what's supposed to kick in is to be like, oh, but Jacob shall be saved, right? Ultimately, and by that, that's talking about the elect, right? This time around, but ultimately, all Israel is going to be saved, right? It says the result is a decline in educational standards and morality, since the individual fights a losing battle to distinguish in all the repetitive junk mail the brain receives the rare spark of absolute truth or real human value. Right, so I didn't actually even read I only really read the top of this, but I actually read it through it now. I'm just like, damn, that's deep, right? So it says broader problem propaganda, rote learning, which I'm not too sure what that means. Guess it's going to tell me, so I don't want to. Rote learning. One of the most evident malfunctions in transmitting intellectual methodologies is the approach of teaching methods in this. That's the problem. Sometimes you just want someone to explain. Scriptures talk about that as well, about use words easy to understand, right? You always be careful of a guy that's using big words all the time around you, man, right? And not explaining them. Be careful of that, man. And then actually question it. And nothing. Scriptures talks about humility. Matthew 5:5, the meek shall inherit the earth, right? And you feel around someone, don't be too proud to ask, what does that mean, right? Guys always saying, oh, I'm trying to remember some of them vocab words, man, because vocab does that a lot, right? You shouldn't trust a man like vocab, man. Because you be someone using all that, those big words, trying to spin a ring around you, man. You be like, yo, what does that mean? Okay, cool. Because then you're not having a conversation. That's then someone just, what do you call it, shouting at you. And what you might find as well is a lot of time people don't know what the hell they're talking about, and that's something the apostles push, right? If someone comes up to camp, you ask them, well, what does that mean? What do you mean by that, right? To related problems, misuse of advertising, aggravates double standard sexual morality, strategies propagandizing, reducing persuasion, blah, 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 blah. Right, so I think that hits the point on that article. So it actually ended up being more interesting than I realized, right? But like I said, this can be used on the left-hand side and is used on the left-hand side. This is Psalm 64. It says, hear my voice, Homo sign, my prayer preserve my life from fear of the enemy, right? Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, right? So, people say, the Bible is not up to date with current times. Well, this is referring to the Illuminati, right? Now, people will be like, but it doesn't say Illuminati. Well, what's the Illuminati? It's a secret council, and who's it comprised of? Wicked people. So, it's a secret council of the wicked, right? It says from the insurrection, but then they'll be like, but it's not a secret though. Then you'll be like, but you just said the Illuminati don't exist. What are you talking about? right? So and that's the thing, when you actually pay attention to what a man's saying, that's one of the things that this truth teaches you, right? To pay attention to what someone's speaking. Right? That's why that's one of the main reasons, your woman gets pissed off at you, because you're actually listening to the bullshit that's coming out of her mouth, right? And then you're like, no, but you said this, right? And in general, you listen to people's speech, right? And then you realize people put their foot in their mouth a lot of the time, which is why it's best to just even us when we're teaching, just stick to the scriptures, right? You speak too much, as I'm doing right now, but you speak too much, then you end up putting your foot in your mouth, man, right? It says, Psalm 64:2, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. Right? If I remember correctly, it was yes, the propaganda, man. Right? So the propaganda that this man pushes out, right? So that they may shoot in secret at the perfect, the Israelites. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. So they pushing their propaganda against Jake, man, right? So they encourage themselves in their evil matter. They can commune of links, and there's privily they say who shall see them, right? And this is one of the tools and techniques that they use to push this evil matter, right? So what Micah 2 says, they sit upon their beds, basically, contemplate what evil that they can do, right? They search out iniquities, right? They accomplish diligent search. Psychology is one of them things that they've searched out, right? Because they found that they can control people by psychology, right? Which is, when you look at the bigger picture, about the situation and the way the society that we live in today, right? You actually realize that this man is the devil, right? He's a patient devil, right? But he is the devil. Like, the way the Lord has made him to do what he does. You go back to 1964, funnily enough, right? It was 1960, I believe it was 1964, right? With sexual liberation. What does that do? That breaks the family, right? And then you so many different things. Okay, then 1972, you have Roe v. Wade legalizing abortion. So now you have, this free sex thing that's happening, right? And then you end up in this situation where women are the key holders to the sex and men are the simps, fulfilling Jeremiah 31:22, a woman shall compass a man. Right? So then, it's got the role reversal there to a situation now where a lot of men are scared to lose their woman, right? Because of this power dynamic. So they do whatever their woman, says. So what does Esau then do? He pushes the wickedness on the woman, who then the man, being the simp, follows that woman, right? Which is why you might when I was teaching at Oxford Circus, each Pride, I'm pretty sure a lot of the women that were there weren't even quote a lesbian, man, right? But they were there, right? Because women are all about that, other stuff, man. And then the men that were there were just following their woman, right? Not saying that they weren't fishing or, at those events. But I'm saying there would have been heterosexuals there as well, because their woman said, it'll be a fun day, yeah. And then he go, okay, baby, right? So, that's just an example of this man's wickedness, right? It says both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. And yet to concoct a plan like that, because that goes back to the garden, right? Who did the serpent go to? Serpent went to the woman, right? Being the weaker vessel, right? Scriptures talk about, when you're dealing with your woman, deal with her as unto the weaker vessel, right? And that's what the Lord gives you, a woman, man. Hey, he's just giving you, what do you call it? He's just opened the door to Satan in your life, right? 'Cause, your woman is more susceptible, right? And then she's gonna, is another avenue for Satan to get at you, right? It says, but the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow, suddenly shall they be wounded, right? So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. Right? And you see that in several different cases where Esau will bring something out about himself, or an Edomite will get on Esau, or whatever. For instance, these truthers, right? Whatever. But once again, because of this technique, right, of indoctrination by repetition, some people just can't see it, and ultimately it's because their eyes have been blinded, right? Read that in Isaiah 6, right? And 9 through 11, right? And I'm going to end on, so what's the move? I'm going to end on this, it's 2 Corinthians 2:11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices, right? So, hey, we're not ignorant of this, man, right? We know what's, you know, the Lord has basically been dealing with us, starting with the apostles on down, to be able to see when Esau's trying to bamboozle us, man, right? This is just another one of his devices. But also on the right hand side, right? Yeah, you when you repeat stuff, that's how things get stuck in your head, right? That's how you learn, right? You can't learn without a repetition, right? Why do you think Americans say the national anthem every blood? I don't know if they still do that, but from TV it makes it look like American school kids say, the national anthem every day. But in contrast, you ask a Brit to sing the national anthem, they might only know the first first bit of the anthem itself, right? It's how you learn your ABCs every single morning. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through to the end, right? So it's the same with these scriptures, man. Going over them and over them and over them, right? So that you learn and you understand, right? So yeah, as always, Lord's will. That was edifying, and yeah, to the next time. Shalom.